And we're live.
Yay!
My app must
Holy
be
cow,
slow.
I'm
It says
here.
off air still.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, there it goes.
I expected to see a bunch of gasoline cans and like charred up stuff in the background of your.
It's pretty close to that. Let me tell you.
I'm gonna burn down the building.
Yes, I have not received my paycheck in several weeks. I might burn down the building. You have my stapler?
What is that
Oh,
from?
Melton, Office Space.
Yeah.
Classic
I actually
movie.
watch that one of these days. Yeah.
You haven't seen it yet?
Oh my goodness.
No.
Oh man, you are missing out on a classic piece of office software technology culture.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So
you
I've
gotta
heard.
You won't relate to it as much anymore though. Now you've
It's
kind of
true.
missed the window. You'll be like, why would someone go into an office and work? I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't understand what. Yeah,
What's the boss? Who are these people that are controlling this person's
how
life?
would
I
you
don't.
ever
Yeah.
deal with having 8 bosses? That's insane.
I struggle to explain to my kids that most people's parents leave the house during the day.
My kids understand that because my wife goes to her office at work.
Okay. Yeah.
But Daddy stays at home and plays with his computer all day.
Yeah, exactly.
You're a kept man, Derek.
I am.
So I gone and pissed off the internet again. Man, it's
Always.
Woo! High five.
so much fun. Oh, people are so vicious. Like it's just crazy. Like I actually crawled under my desk, last week, and it's like, and it's a standing desk, so it like crushed me it literally crushed me.
Because when you crawl under, you're supposed to hit the buttons.
Yeah. I did this video on. Actually, it's funny because I thought the video would actually be pretty balanced and non-controversial, right? Everyone thinks I made a clickbait video, and I didn't. I was actually like, okay, this is an interesting because someone asked me if I was a creationist, so I did this.
John's balanced is other people's clickbait. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like Fox News, they claim to be fair and balanced when they are fair to the extreme right hand, and they are balanced between them and the moderate right hand.
Yeah, but it was it was pretty crazy because I basically like did this video and I was like, saying that I was neither a creationist nor an evolutionist, and that I was somewhere in the middle, like that there wasn't enough evidence on either side to like that no one really should have an absolute opinion because we can't know what happened millions and millions of years ago. We can make guesses and we can and it doesn't even really matter in your life, you know what I mean? So that was basically my message. It was like use your own brain and don't just believe something because science. That's not a reason to believe a thing just because of science and like look at the other side of the argument. And I basically presented I was like I used to believe 100% in evolution. I went to like a creation science class, and I was planning on raising my hand and saying, "No, you're an idiot. Look, this is science." And I was actually a little bit shocked at my inability to actually respond to that they had some pretty decent. Like I thought they were just crackpots, and then I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. I'm not sure if I totally believe that, but I could see, and then. That's how I ended up in the middle. Was like, was to say, well, there's actually fairly good, So that's basically the whole message, and people just went ape shit. They're like, evolution. It is evolution. It's a fact. It's not a thing. Do you know what the difference between a theory and a hypothesis is? And I'm like, yeah.
Clearly, the people that are making these
Incontrovertible
comments
proof.
don't.
That's what the difference is.
The thing is too, what's crazy is like then just people that were like fans turned into vicious like Just I guess it's a button. Like I must have pushed the uncertainty button because people want to feel like they're certain about their origin of life in the universe, and they must feel lost about that. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad that it kind of proved my point because like it's sad that people are this ignorant that they would get emotional about about something. Like basically the whole thing was kind of based on this idea. It's like too many people go and they're like, if someone doesn't believe something that's quote science, they must be. It's okay to like just do whatever you want to them, right? You can dehumanize them and burn them because they're stupid. So it just proved it. I was amazed. Like I was basically trying to say like, let's not do this. And then everyone in the comments, not everyone, you know what I mean, but just crazy, like just totally, like I get that, like I probably have forgotten more about evolution and than most people have ever learned. Like I can tell you like more stuff about cellular biology than I think most people have ever even encountered in their life. I've studied it like extensively, so like I'm not ignorant on the subject. It's just, but you know what I found in general is I'm doing my diatribe. I always have to do one diatribe, but
we need like a bumper music for the John's diatribe segment.
But you know what I found though is that okay, no matter what someone's crazy crackerjack idea is, right? Like if there's some kind of cult, if there's some kind of following, if there's some kind of like weird thing, like if you actually really look into it, right? You'll find that there's probably some semblance of sanity in there. Like there's some compelling argument. Like very few times do you ever like hear some crackerjack idea that people are actually following, and when you look at it, it's just totally insane, right? I tell you this, even though most people are, when they hear this, they're like, "You're nuts," and because I've done this a lot. Like I just read again. Now people are really gonna think I'm nuts, but I just read Dianetics. I just finished the book, which is L. Ron Hubbard, the kind of foundation of Scientology. Mm-hmm. It's actually like, it's a little bit weird, but it actually kind of makes a little bit of sense. Like I don't know if it's like, I would say this is the way to go, but I would say that it kind of coincides with some other philosophies and ideas and stuff that's not quite that whacked out there. Like I could totally see why people would believe it and how it could be beneficial in your life. And I found that with everything. Like it's every single thing that I've ever. There's probably a few exceptions, but most of the time when I have really honestly looked into something, when I was studying the Bible and I was looking at Revelation, and there was like, everyone believes the pre-tribulation, Timothy LaHaye's Left Behind type of view of Revelation, and then there's these millennialists or post-millennialists or whatever. And when I was doing a study. And I was like, okay, well, let me just see what they have to say. Like before, everyone in this Bible study was like, oh, they're dumb, they're idiots. Yeah, oh, these guys are nuts. They're ridiculous. How could they believe this, right? And I looked up all the information, and I did a thorough study, and I was like, I might be convinced actually, like because they had plenty of good arguments. Like it was like, yeah, it's just as solid as the other case. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. It was a very disappointing week because not because of necessarily the hatred, but just because of the ignorance. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could believe evolution, that's fine, but man, are we really gonna go back to the Dark Ages where when someone has an unpopular opinion, we're gonna burn them at the stake and dehumanize them?
We never left those Dark Ages.
I guess not, but I expected better from the simple programmer audience, right? I expected better from people that who want to improve themselves, right? You know what I mean?
That's the same argument of I expected better of the technology industry for, all of the sexism and racism and all the other problems that we have. You can't expect better of any given group of human beings because we're all human beings. Well, sure, some of us purport to be more intelligent in certain areas and certain things, but when it comes down to it, you have a cross-section of humanity in just about every large enough group of people. It doesn't matter how that group is defined.
And I guess there's a vocal minority, right, too, so...
Sometimes, yeah. They're definitely the vocal ones, but, I mean, I thought your video was great. I'm, like, +1 all the way around for
thank you.
You've been saying. Yeah. So, it's whatever.
One thing that I see here, too, is that in a lot of cases, people create this dichotomy where it really doesn't even have to exist. Evolution is...
Oh, we lost Chuck. Chuck's been censored.
He has.
Well, dude, right now, someone is so friggin' pissed off. They're like hacking into like YouTube, and they're like, "No, it is evolution, you fuckers. It's evolution. I'm censoring his ass."
Yeah, I sent John a link yesterday. Apparently, YouTube is going to start censoring stuff that they don't like by basically blocking. You won't be able to collect ad revenue on it. I wouldn't be surprised if they hide it in search results too. You can post it. Yeah. Nobody will see it.
Yeah, I heard something about that. I didn't read up on it yet, but there's been an uproar about it.
Yeah.
Good thing I moved to Patreon. Well, sort of. Like, that was a good preemptive move. But yeah, it's not like I did a video and it was like creation science. Like, I wasn't saying I don't believe in evolution. I was saying I'm in the middle because there's not, you know, we could, I mean, and the thing is, it's not like there's even just two choices. It's not like it's either, you know, like, or even three. I think people come up with three choices. They're like, either it's evolution in a vacuum, or it's God-inspired evolution, okay, or it's literal 7-day creation. And depending on where, and like the first two are okay, but the last one is total nut job. But there's all bunch of other possibilities. One of them is that the entire universe could have been warped in from another dimension 100 million years ago. We could be zoo experiments from an alien race. We could have quantum evolution where we have a billion different universes and each organism self-selects. If it ever expires itself in another universe, that determines what its traits become in this universe, right? And we're only seeing the successful universe because that's the ones where we're alive in. I mean, there could be like a billion explanations for things that fit the, you know, what we're seeing. It's just so, I don't know. I just get so I don't understand how people could you know, thinking people could shut off their brain in this one area.
Because we have a deep-seated need for belief and structure around our beliefs. And those beliefs come out in different ways for different people, depending on how they were raised, depending on who they surround themselves with, depending on the stories and information that they read. And some people, you know, take different paths along those belief structures. There's no simple single answer for any of why people react and think these ways. It's all a very complex human nature.
Yeah.
And society and everything else that we're in.
I guess it's like, I mean.
At this point, in my life, I'm just like, yeah, you believe that, all right. Are you a good person? Are you treating other people with respect? Are you showing love and kindness and compassion? Are you trying to make the world a better place? You know, I don't care what your belief structure is, as long as you're doing those things.
Exactly, and that I think that's the key, right? That's the underlying key. That's why we should act like humans on the internet. But
that is a lot.
That's a tall order.
That is a lot to ask. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, it was interesting. I mean, I lost a ton of subscribers, like the drop off, but it's good because those kind of toxic people. It's good. I'm filtering out. Like at the end of it, you know, eventually I'll have like just the greatest group of people that want to help each other and help themselves.
It's just gonna be me and John. And I'll be kind of looking at him. I'll be kind of shooting sideways glances at him. So that's what.
This is how you make a cult. This is how you do it.
Rodrigo, I see why Rodrigo posted that graphic of the Patreon. We lost some Patreon supporters. It looks like.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't make the connection to that video.
But we are at an all-time high of subscribers. We're adding around 5,000 new subscribers a month net.
Holy cow!
So. Yeah, I mean, yes, it's polarizing always works, and it's not like it's even. It's just you're going to have a better and stronger message, and you're going to connect and collect the right people. They're going to be more likely to take action because there's a lot of people viewing videos, right? I mean, but now there's a higher percentage of them subscribing because they're aligned with the message, and you have a clear message, and I think that's the key thing. Is it's like. So, I don't know. It's just, like I said, it's just disappointing because I was really expecting a little bit more from people, from humanity.
YouTube is pretty notorious for childish behavior, too, so...
And I just like one thing, I'm very much against gatekeepers and people that tell you can't do anything, but the other thing that I'm kind of very much against is, like, it's a science authority, like, because... If you understand how the academic process, like people just are so ignorant of it, they don't understand that academics is about races for papers, like who can get published the most, and that the validity and the credentials, like the scrutiny of papers, like it's very one-sided. Like you never want to be the heretic, otherwise you're not going to get published. Like there's a huge problem in the academic community with this. And with jumping to conclusions, because if you can come up with a new theory, well, even just the way our academic system is set up, where even as a master's you have to have a thesis, but especially to get your PhD, you got to come up with something brand new. So you got to connect dots that aren't there a lot of times. It's really a force, like that shouldn't be. I don't know, like I don't know the solution for it, but the whole industry, like when something that is scientific it doesn't mean that it's true. There's a lot of reason to have skepticism on a lot of things that are, quote, established science. Not just because of the hokey kind of thing with peer reviews and papers and social pressure, but also just because shit that we think we figured out, 50 years later, we always find out we're dead wrong. Like almost, I mean, so many things have been upturned and totally changed. Even in that, most people don't even know about this. It's called epigenetics, which is basically this crazy thing that this guy predicted like 200 years ago as a competing theory to Darwinian evolution to natural selection, which was that parents' genes could be passed on to the child that were changed in their life. So environmental pressures could actually cause genetic changes which would be passed on to the children. And people thought this guy was nuts, and they called him crazy. And then this whole epigenetics came out, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. This actually happens. It doesn't happen because the DNA changes, but the gene expression on the DNA actually changes based on environmental conditions. And so, like, they found this a lot of times with concentration camps where they were starved, and then the next generation was overweight, and it's because the the gene expression changed. And there's like a whole bunch of things that they trained them like mice to run a race, right? To run a maze, and then the offspring of the mice were able to run that same maze faster because there was actually a genetic expression that got passed on. This is like weird stuff, but like I said,
the same thing in plants for crops and whatnot. In order to get bigger produce out of plants, they're putting plants into stressful conditions where there's not enough water, not enough nutrients, and they're doing that in a controlled environment in order to change the gene structure, the genetic makeup of the plants, so that the next generation of plants will always exist in that condition. Whether or not they have enough resources to produce, they will be in that stress condition to produce bigger and better things all the time.
Exactly, and that's epigenetics. It's not natural selection. It's not breeding, right? It is literally environmental pressures are being passed on to the next generation, which is just crazy stuff. Like you wouldn't even believe it if it weren't multiple sources of. But it just goes to show you, like what we think we know, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, there's some things like you can make. You know, I always say that we're really good at like our current everything is a model in science, and some of our models are really good. Like we understand physics well enough that our model's not true, but it's close enough that we can shoot a freaking piece of metal off of this planet and land it in a precise location on another planet. That's pretty freaking good, but it's not accurate. It's still not accurate. It's still not perfect. It's still totally wrong, right? you know what I'm saying? Like from the what is the actual truth of the? It's a model. Everything's a model. Everything's a theory or a model, and like as long as we hold on to that and we're like, okay, yeah, this totally could be totally wrong at any given time, or we could find a better model or better truth, or this thing could be flipped upside down, then we're in a good place because we can debate this and. But when we get to this place where we're like, oh no, well, and this happens not just right in the science realm, but it happens in the political realm too, right? There's certain political opinions where you're like, oh no, if you express this political opinion, you have to be just a complete idiot. I don't even have to call you a human being anymore. And we get to that place where we can't have healthy debate. Like it's you can't have this opinion at all. You can't have it. Nope. I won't even talk to you. I'll stab you if I see you on the street. Then we get to this. We've just become ignorant, and social media, unfortunately, and the internet is accelerating that to really heighten that effect, and it's an extremely dangerous place. I think that we're at. So anyway, that's the end. Okay, my diatribe is done. I'm done.
Oh.
So how long has it been since I've been here? I could probably talk for the next hour and a half.
Yes, update us.
Okay, so shit broken, dumpster fire, and I'm eating my savings to pay my bills. All right, there's the TLDR. I don't know where do I start?
Start with what's good.
What's good? I did have one or two new subscribers in the month of August. I think it was 2, which is definitely a good thing. There were 2. So there were multiple people that attempted to subscribe. Like on September 1st, there were 4 people that got put into this pending state on September 1st. Which basically means they went most of the way through the process of signing up and then bailed for some reason. They got an account created, but the charge never went through. Only one of the 4 though actually had an attempted charge that failed, at least that I could see. So I emailed 3 out of the 4 people to see if there was anything I could do to help and if there was any problems they ran into. Haven't heard anything back yet. But maybe one of those people will get back to me. So that was a good thing. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot of positive to report at this point. I've had this new pricing structure in place since May 1st, and I've had an average of 1 new subscriber a month since May 1st, basically. It's been painful, difficult. Maybe 2 new subscribers a month, I guess. So it's not technically completely, totally broken, but it's difficult to sit back and see my active subscriber count continuing to drop. Like when at the beginning of the year, I had 425 active subscribers. I'm sitting at 333 right now, which, for a while, the number of people unsubscribing, it dropped because people saw the new price structure and they wanted to stick around at their old price structure, and, that was good. But now the unsubscribe rates, the churn rate is starting to pick up again. And so I'm losing, close to 10 subscribers, active subscribers a month. Which, of course, it's not the monthly, it's not the annual people that are leaving, because they're sticking around for a year, but the people that were on the older monthly plans. So I've been talking with Rob Connery about all this. He and I have met, done Skype a couple times over the last couple of weeks, and we're planning to meet pretty regularly. And so he and I are looking at some of the things that he used to do with TechPub, some of the things that PeepCode used to do before they got bought out by Pluralsight, and just generally trying to refocus the way I present the content on Watch Me Code. Because if you look at a lot of what's on Watch Me Code, like in the series listing, it's mostly garbage in terms of the way I present it. There's a few really good things, like the Docker for app development. That one's pretty obvious, and I think a lot of people are very interested in that. There's things like the RabbitMQ one that has been pretty popular and continues to sell a couple of big bundles a month, which is nice. But for the most part, most of the things that I have listed here are just, people are just like, I don't understand why I should care about this. And I can see the evidence of that, not only from listening to what Rob has to say and by looking at other screencasting sites, but just based on the flat evidence of sales that I don't have. But also the marketing guy that I've been working with, Mark, we've been doing a lot more customer surveys and reaching out to people to find out what people think are missing from the subscription, what problems people are seeing. And a big part of the feedback that we are getting is things like, well, I wish you had more of a focus on real-world applications. I wish you had more of a focus on this, more of a focus on that, more of a focus on... And the crazy thing is, everything that people are... like 8 out of 10 things that people say they want is already there, but they don't know it. So there is very clearly something wrong with the way I am presenting this information. I mean, a prime example is I have this mishmash of different series that was supposed to have turned into the big Express.js package that I talked about earlier in the year, that I was all excited about after MicroConf, where I wanted to do the Kickstarter and everything. Well, I got all those episodes done, but it never went anywhere, and it kind of just got haphazardly thrown into the series listing under like 4 different series. And I was describing all of the content in these different series to Rob, and Rob was like, "Holy crap, Derek, you have a goldmine of content here. It's just nobody can see it because it's split apart in these really ugly ways that doesn't express the real value." And so we spent some time, he helped me think of a few better ways to look at the content in there and to talk about the content in there. So I'm gonna spend some time taking all of the Express.js related stuff, the Node and Express stuff, and paring it down into like a real core bundle of probably 20 to 25 screencasts, and re-recording a few bits of it, adding on a few pieces to tell a better overarching story, and then try to put that together as a big Node Express, Express for the real world, Painless Express, whatever the name is going to be, as a larger bundle for really getting people, to get people to see what's really there in the content. And I don't know, that's about the extent of that's kind of the summary of what's been going on for the last month since I've had anything to say. But it continues to be incredibly frustrating to spend thousands of dollars a month on marketing effort in terms of actual dollars plus just my time, going through the email course rewrite that I did, the RabbitMQ relaunch that I did, all of the functional programming, functional JavaScript webinars that I did, and the expense associated with that. I've been throwing money down the drain in terms of marketing effort. Nothing has worked. Zero. I have no evidence that any of the efforts I've put in place have produced any results, because the numbers that I'm seeing at the end of the month are the same as if I had not done anything. So it's like, okay, what do I do now? I made these big changes. I put in a crap ton of effort to make this work. I'm continuing to put in effort to try and make this work, but nothing has worked yet, and I don't know what to do with this. I don't know if I should just go back to having a monthly subscription and see if that works. I don't know if I should continue throwing money at the marketing side of things. I don't even know if I can afford to pay the marketing guy that I've been working with. He's only costing me $500 a month, but he, in my opinion, is helping me focus. He's giving me, which is really what he's doing. He's helping me focus from a marketing perspective. He's helping me focus on what content I should be producing, when and where. And it's been great having him help me do that, because I actually feel like I know what I'm supposed to be doing every week. But I don't know if I can pay his $500 a month anymore. We were supposed to have earned, $6,000 to $10,000 in sales by now, which was going to pay for his services through the end of the year. And now I'm like, well, can I even afford to pay that $500? Because I ate $2,000 out of my savings account in August to pay my bills, because I was 6 months behind on paying my life insurance retirement program. And now, I've credit card racked up again, and I've got just all these. I'm back in that bad situation that I seem to keep getting myself into, where I'm overspending and not getting any return on it. It's the same cycle that I've gone through, every year for the last 3 years, and it's just incredibly frustrating. I don't know what to do. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. Well, there's a few different pieces. I think one thing that I would suggest is separating the two problems out, because you're mixing them together. One is financial solvency, like bookkeeping, and the other one is the business itself, like the operation of the business. Because I think as long as you're kind of mixing those up, you're going to run into real big problems. Like, I think, so that's why I say you got two problems here. One of them is the financial side. That one we can solve real quick or real easy, which is you got to get real good bookkeeping in place so that you're not spending money you don't have, so that when you do make an investment, it's an investment, not a gamble. Because you keep making gambles, and gambles sometimes pay off, but when they don't pay off, you're in a squeeze or a bind, and it's going to make you feel bad, and it's going to hurt your business, and you're going to be stressed out, and now you've got a gun to your head. Whereas if you make an investment, it should be coming from the profits that you're making. You have this money in the budget, you can spend that money. So I think if you get your books in order, I don't know if you're using like something like QuickBooks or something, and you've got that totally accounted for.
I don't at this point. That's a big thing that I've been missing for years now, and I've never taken the time to do it.
It's time to do it, I think, because you're always going to end up in this situation, because it's just unless you just got such an overflow of money coming in where you don't have to quote balance the checkbook, you've got to have it budgeted and you've got to have it accounted for, because then you'll have then that'll be a separate. Then those problems won't mix and compound on each other. So I think that one you can tackle and you could definitely do. If you guys disagree, let me know. But I think
that's something I've been needing to do for years on end, anyways, and I need to get that done. I think you're right.
I think that's part of the, we're talking about cash flow. That's part of the problem. But I mean, what I'm hearing is mostly thinking and frustration over two issues. When you said there are two separate issues here and you need to separate them, I was thinking something else. And they're related, but they're still separate issues. And one is retention, and the other one is getting new customers. And so, if you're working on getting new customers, then you've got to convince them that the value they're looking for is there. Mm-hmm. And retention is showing the customers that value is there. So your approach may be a little different. You can probably share some of the content between the two problems, but I would focus on one and try and solve it first. And it sounds like if you're in more immediate need of money, you may want to start solving it for getting new people on board.
See, that's what I tried to do for the last 4 months.
Yeah.
That's what the email course rewrite was supposed to do, and that's what the RabbitMQ relaunch was supposed to do. And those turned into, literally months of wasted effort.
So here's a question. What are you the best in the world at? I've been asking this question a lot because I think that this is I'm working on the Dev to Entrepreneur course, and I'm realizing more and more so you need to figure out one thing that you can say, I am absolutely the best in the world at this. If you want this, I have it. No one else has it. I'm also
right now. I don't know if I can answer that question because my confidence is so damn shattered.
Well, it does. You don't even have to be it right now. You just have to pick that out. What can you be the best in the world at? That's a better question. Right. Is so that someone can go to your company and purchase from you what they can't get from somewhere else. Or this is clearly the winner for what I'm looking for. I think that's the key differentiator. It's kind of like the USP, right? It's
right.
But I think that, I don't know, I keep on thinking in those terms lately, and I think that's kind of the best, because I keep on telling people specialize, niche down, and I don't think that's strong enough. I think it's more what can you be the absolute best in the world at? Pick that thing. And so maybe that's...
Yeah, the point of niching down is to find somewhere where there is nobody that's the best in the world at something. Mm-hmm. And then you become that, yeah.
So for me, that's always been my ability to take complex technical subjects and break them down into small things and teach it in a simple to understand manner where people can literally go back to their day job and start taking advantage of it.
I think there's someone else in the space of making the complex simple.
I think so. This complex programmer guy.
Well, okay, but apply that down to JavaScript, I think, right? And then you've got something that, and maybe even one step further. Even with what you've got now, it's can you? Okay, maybe your thing is okay, if you are new to JavaScript or you're and you want to be able to understand this and become an expert, I can get you there faster than anyone else, because I can take all this stuff that's complicated that everyone spends years trying to figure out, and I can get you the fast track. In 6 months, you're going to know more than someone who's been doing this for 3 years because of the way that I break it down and show you. So wouldn't you like to save 2.5 years worth of time?
Right.
Is that I don't know. I don't want to totally lead but I think that would be a very rough USP that would that you could be the best in the world at.
And that's generally the kind of approach that I've tried to take with the marketing side of this. But when it comes down to looking at the actual content, there's a huge disconnect between the way my content is described on my own website and that ideal that I have attempted to push.
Well, if you have I'm kind of pushing on having this story, right? So that you could say, if you hand out someone your business card and you're they're what do you do? And they're oh, well, you know how it takes 3 years to become good at JavaScript? I can make you an expert in 6 months. That's what I do. I make people really good at JavaScript really, really fast. Again, that's not a polished one, but something where you just because if you have that, then I feel you go on podcasts and you that's your message, and you make your website and that's your message, and you write a blog post or an ad and that's your message. It's just you're just pounding into people's head Just like as simple programmer, we're pounding into people's head. We are soft skills for software developers. That's what we do. That's what we are. That's what we do. And we've now have a really clear message that everything that's non-technical skill, that's what simple programmer does.
Yeah. So what concrete outcome can you promise your ideal customer? That's kind of another way of saying what John's getting at. Like, what will I look like? Well, if you take me under your wing, what will I look like in 90 days or 6 months, or how will my life be better?
I have another one that I'll throw out for you, and this is a question I get asked a lot, especially by people in the JavaScript space, because there's so much motion and everybody's trying to stay caught up on everything, and it's just like, what do I learn? Do I learn Webpack or System.js or this or that or the other thing? And it's how do I stay current with so many things moving? And I think if you can address that story, right? It's look, if you follow simple programmer, if you follow Watch Me Code over the next year, then you're going to be up on the latest technology. But what you do is you agitate on which of the 10 million new things in JavaScript do you learn? How do you know that that's what's going to pay off over the next year?
My invariant answer to that question is it doesn't matter. Pick one and go. Because it really, truly doesn't matter, because in 6 months you're going to be doing something different anyways. The point is not to learn the latest and greatest. The point is to learn the foundations and the skill set that will allow you to move between the tool sets when they change in 6 months.
Yeah. You can't agitate on that, though.
I know, but that's the only reality.
You can.
You have the answer. You just don't have to reveal the answer right away. You just have to say, okay, here's your problem. You need to know what you need to learn and how to. You've got a problem. The problem is the crap is changing. There's too much stuff. It's overwhelming. I don't know what I'm doing. What do I learn? What do I invest my time in? That's a problem. And you can say, and I've got the solution for you. But the solution won't be what they think. That's fine. The solution will be like, instead of focusing on, and it's a good solution, because it's like, okay, you have no hope. I mean, just destroy their hope. Be like, there's no way you're going to learn this. There's no way you're going to figure it out. This is kind of what we do with 10 steps. It's like, there's no way. You can't do it. There is no answer. But I'll give you, because you're focusing on technology, you're focusing on the low-level downstream thing. Instead, here's the answer. I'm going to show you how to become the person who, it doesn't matter what the technology is, because you understand the principles, because everything is based on principles. And if you've been in the software development field as long as I have, you know that there's nothing new. It all just rehashes. And so I'm going to show you the core things that you need to know that are going to be rehashed in every single framework, every single technology. And when something comes out and you need to learn it, you'll learn it quick because you already know what it's based on. Something you can still offer that answer, I think.
A lot of times there's two basic ways that you can approach it. You can be the tactics guy, or you can be the principles guy. And you're naturally cut out to be the principles guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And running with that and keeping that.
Yeah, but I think John has really gotten to the heart of the issue, and that is that you have to have that story. And it's got to be the story that somebody really identifies with. So, I mean, JavaScript this is something that people who haven't done JavaScript seriously for very long get hung up on. And so, you can kind of lead them down that path and then say, look, here are the other things that you need to know so that you can succeed in JavaScript. But if you're trying to sell to people who already get that, then you've got to have this other draw. You have to hit that other problem, whatever it is, and tell their story to them, and then get them to identify with it, feel the pain, and then want to buy in.
And again, I'm saying this because I've been discovering this lately. I just turned down, like, someone was going to pay me $5,000 to go do a workshop because they wanted me, and they said, I don't care what you train on, just do something technical.
Send them to me.
And I said, no, I won't do. That's not what I do. I don't do technical. I do soft skills. That's what simple program. It was a kind of a tough decision. I was like, what, and then I was like, no, this is it. This is the path. This is the path. And every time that I've been talking to people and they've been asking, or I've been doing interviews and stuff, it's about I want to make software developers' lives better. That's what I want to do.
Retitle your talk "Technical Soft Skills for Software Developers."
There you go. But to me, that's like the clarity. I think you've got to have that. Like, I felt like I was trying to straddle the fence for such a long time, and now it's like, no, you got to pick the thing, and then it's a simple message, and that's the thing. Like, and anything else that's a distraction for that, or that's like some kind of side. No, this is what I do. I make software developers' lives better. I teach them soft skills. That's it. That's it's fine, and you got to like hone down in that message that much, so that every time you go on a podcast, every time you do a blog post, every time someone interviews you, every time you've got that same exact thing that you're beating into people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one other thing that I just want to point out, because John asked the question, what are you best in the world at? And the thing is that what you're best in the world at, or what you're very close to being, if you're not, in my mind, is the person that explains JavaScript and helps people understand what's out there and where the community or the JavaScript ecosystem is moving to, and giving them the skills that help them get to that place where they can succeed. I think you do really well at that. And if you find somebody better at it than you, then you can easily figure out how to do it better than they do. But the thing is that the problem that you have isn't that. The problem that you have is telling that story. It is getting that marketing in front of the right people with the right message to get them to buy. And so, don't let it shake your confidence in what you're doing.
Right.
Just recognize that you're trying to do something that's hard, that isn't what you're best at, in order to help people figure out how you can help them. And so, it's tricky. It's there aren't a lot of clear answers a lot of the time, but it's something that I think if you can really nail down the thing that you are the best at, and you can articulate that story well, I think you can make the difference. But I want to make sure that you understand that you should be confident in what you're doing, and you should be excited about the kind of difference you can make, and you need to make sure that those two things come through in the way that you talk to people about it. In other words, you're awesome. Just tell everybody else you're awesome.
Yeah, just have a business card that says I'm awesome. I'm effing awesome.
Chuck said I'm effing awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And have a picture of Chuck and actually a QR code that they can scan, and when they do, it goes to a web page, and it's just Chuck just telling everyone how awesome you are.
It has pictures of me all around, a picture of you going, that guy.
No, but I think, yeah, I totally agree with Chuck. But so bringing this down to a practical application of what you can actually do to move the needle.
Yeah, that's the thing.
This is the tough.
I mean,
everything
we're talking about it is great, and I want to get to that point, but I don't know how to get there from where I am in a way that doesn't literally cost me every dime that I have.
So I mean, I don't know if it has to cost you every dime. I think if you find this message that resonates and you can get behind it, and it doesn't really matter if it's polished so much, right? It's like Craigslist was a piece of crap, and
if it's not polished and it doesn't matter, then my current site should be selling like hotcakes.
Well, but I don't know if it has that clear message. And also, which market are you going after? Are you going after the high-end market or the low-end market? Are you going after I mean, you can potentially eventually go after both, but I think I would like to see, again, just my opinion, but I think that having that message focus in on what are you going to be the best in the world at, that's a very clear, like, 2-sentence message of what you can do, and be the best in the world at doing for someone. And then also, who's your market segment? Who are you targeting? Are you targeting brand new JavaScript developers? That's probably where I would go, because that's the biggest market, and those are the people that are probably have that problem of that we just described the most. Or are you going to be the ultra high end, like, okay, you think that you're shit, you think you're the shit at JavaScript, but you're not the shit. I'm the shit, but I can make you the shit. Right? Because some people they'll love that. They'll
John,
eat that up, right?
Please write a URL with that, and let's propose that to Derek. Yeah, Derek, you are kind of straddling the middle here, as far as like you're kind of the intermediate guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, and that was a very deliberate choice, because there's this giant mass of introduction material, and there's this giant mass of advanced stuff, including the you really don't know anything group. That content already exists, but there's this hole between 2 to 5 years of experience where people are just like, because there's nothing in that space. And
I got it.
That's what I've been trying to focus on.
I think
your content niche is fine. I think it's
one thing I'll say about that though is that it is possible that there's a reason why there's nothing available in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got, I think you've got two choices. Well, three, but two realistic ones. One is what Josh said. There's a reason why there's nothing in the middle. Just be the beginning. Just be the beginning guy. It's okay, right? Like, the other one, as you're talking, that I was thinking, if you really want to be the gap bridger, the bridge gap, the person who bridges the gap.
There you go.
The bridge gapper.
The troll on the bridge.
Yeah, the bridge gapper. You want to be a bridge gapper. I'm the bridge gapper of JavaScript. So if you want to do that, then produce a whole bunch of free low-end content and put it out there. Get all the people to learn them some JavaScript for free so that they can become intermediate, so then you can sell them the bridge gapping.
Hold on, I got to go register and learn them some JavaScript for free.com.
But the other thing that you can do is, if you can, how do I put this? So you're saying there's the advanced content, right? That you don't know anything about JavaScript content.
Right.
It sounds a lot like Kyle Simpson's stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so one thing that you could do is you could talk to Kyle or get access to his content, and then do like the intermediate stuff that leads into what he's talking about, and then make sure that he knows about it. And that way he can go in and he can say, look, if you're having trouble getting this, you need to go get Derek's videos, because they'll bring you up to this point. And that way you have somebody advocating and making the connection for people. You're down here, we're up here, and the way you get up here is by following Watch Me Code.
There you go. I think that's it, and you could probably establish a few of those relationships, and you could probably establish them on the low end as well, and you could probably put out your own low end content to get people there. Like my YouTube strategy, if you're going to do this, would be to put out a ton of free low end videos that would get people introduction to JavaScript and get them ready to buy your stuff. So you're building, like, growing this audience. It's a long tail kind of game, and then doing what Chuck says on the low end and the high end.
Yep.
Right. Otherwise, you just become the low end guy. Like if you're going to stay in the intermediate space, you got to be the bridge gapper. You got to make it really clear that that's what you do. But it almost seems like you need some kind of like flagship thing to get people to that level, like, that you can, where they could be at the intermediate, or maybe like, because I don't know, because I'm trying to think like what could you produce that would be like that everyone would be like, yeah, this is the problem. I think Josh has got it for the email course, right? It's like there's a ton of marketers out there that could say, you want to write email? You want to write an email course? Oh, I could probably help you with that, but there's a guy that specifically does this, so here you go. and it's not competing with their stuff because they're like, well, you see what I'm saying? So I feel like Josh has got that, and you almost need some kind of flagship that's like, you want to like, whatever it is, like figure out how to get to go to bridge the gap between being like you're like competent in JavaScript, but you're not quite good yet. Here you go. This is the thing. Derek has this thing.
Part of the issue.
One other thing that I will. Go ahead.
So part of the issue is that you are trying to make and sell very low end, like price point wise, fairly low end products, and you're doing it also kind of doing it in a vacuum. And if you really want to get some cash flow, could you do a 4-week class that is taught live that you charge $500 for, or possibly more? I mean, that's what I'm going to be doing. You've got how many people on your list now? Like 7,500?
About 5,000.
5,000? Okay. I mean, you could certainly fill a class that is 20 or 30 people at $500 and, make 15 or 20 grand. And you do that a few times, and you're going to have a much better idea of where people, because right now, like, you're teaching stuff that you're learning, but it's not necessarily always the stuff that people know that they want.
People want whatever is the latest and greatest new hotness, and I tend to not do that. I mean, I did that once. I got lucky once when I got into Backbone early on in the Backbone life cycle. Right. And I just happened to ride the wave up with Backbone. Yeah. But that's like the one and only time where I've been on that wave as it's building.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and Angular
it still seems to me that there's a story to tell here, and if you can articulate that story, because you, again, getting back to this idea of the bridge, where you're basically saying, you've gotten this far, or you've graduated from boot camp, or you've done code school, or whatever, and make it easy for people to identify. You've had a guide or self-taught, and this is the next step in the journey, and then just make it very clear the pathway that they're going to follow in order to move to the next level. And just position yourself as that guide. And I think if you can make it clear what your expectation and outcome is, and make it clear where you're expecting people to come in at, I think that'll make it easy.
I'm still debating too. Like in my head, I'm like, I don't know. Are you kind of shooting yourself in the foot by being the bridge gapper? Like,
yeah.
Is this really like? Should you just go to?
I like how John has just smoothly adapted that into the programmer's vernacular. It's like.
Should you just go to the low end, and you've got intermediate content? I mean, you can eventually have all three spaces if you want, but you got to get enough. The funnel starts at the bottom. That's where the biggest growth is, and that's where the new programmers come in, and that's where the most people are, is learning JavaScript, right? So I'm wondering if you just you partition your business into phases, and you say, okay, I'm going to do just growing I'm just going to do low-end content and just grow that and build a base, right? So that you've got a funnel where people are coming in and you're teaching them JavaScript from not knowing JavaScript. Because that's like, you definitely have the market for that. You've got the skills. You've got the, you can figure out a unique approach, and there's plenty of people that want that. And then if you fill out that part and you're getting people coming into your funnel from that, then surprise, when they're done with the beginner stuff, you've got a whole candy land of intermediate stuff for them. So like they're sticking around and they're telling their friends, and it's just harder to market and push the intermediate stuff, because and this is what I've kind of discovered from the simple programmer audience, drawing on this, is that people who are at the intermediate level have figured out how to teach themselves stuff. Mm-hmm. It's like, and the people at the expert level realize they need a coach. but like the people at the beginner level, they realize they need some help. But I think at the intermediate level, everyone's like, in fact, if we get refunds on 10 steps to learn anything quickly, most of the refunds say this. They say, yeah, I already kind of figured this out on my own. Like, I already know how to teach myself. I was looking for something. And so what they're telling me is basically like, look, I'm an intermediate programmer. Like, if I was a total beginner, this would be totally awesome stuff. But because I already went through the steps of figuring this stuff out after I've learned a couple of languages, yeah, we're basically doing the same. Like, I don't need that help as much anymore, even though they actually do. They don't realize that they need. But you know what I'm saying. Like, I think that could be. I mean, because then you're not totally abandoning the intermediate. Like the bridge gapper, I think that's cool, but I just feel like it's not cool enough to be able to, it's not shiny enough to attract people's attention. Whereas if you can have a bunch of beginner content, put a bunch of stuff, and focus on that, and have a bunch of packages to intro people in, then you're getting them into the gate, and then you can sell them the upgraded material, the intermediate stuff, and get them there where it's really hard to find people, because no one says, again, we've got a similar problem in search, right? You can't SEO this. I mean, they can SEO your specific packages, but no one types in going from intermediate or beginner to, or intermediate to advanced JavaScript developer, how to, or you know what I mean? Someone types in how do I learn JavaScript, and the advanced people type in the advanced shit that they know that no one would even think of, because they have specific problems that they're trying to improve in a specific area, I think, and so, or they just know from word of mouth of who the experts are, where they can get their things, but I mean, it's the same thing that I've got with simple programmers. Like, no one says, how do I learn soft skills for software developers? I have to hook them in with other pieces and stuff, and to build up enough momentum. And so maybe if you just go beginner, you can get that momentum. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think there are a lot of choices, honestly.
Which is part of the problem. It's like, okay, there's a million things I could do. I don't know how to make a decision and focus in on that one decision. It's like I see, well, okay, if I make this decision, then I can no longer do that, but I wanted to do that. Well, if I make this other decision, then I can no longer do this, but I wanted to. It's focus. It's, what is the core? What is that, best thing in the world, the USP, the whatever you want to call it? What is that thing that I should be always looking at? And I don't. At this point, I don't feel like I know what that is anymore. 5 years ago, I thought I did, but now I'm like, I don't know anymore, because everything that I've tried around what I thought my focus was and what I thought my best thing in the world was, it's falling apart right now.
All right, I've got a crazy idea. How much traffic do you get, new traffic, to either to DerekBailey.com or Watch Me Code, like combined, like new visitors?
I have no idea.
Is it like maybe like 5,000 a month, 10,000, 20, more, 50?
How do I check new versus existing traffic?
Well, how much traffic do you get total?
About 25,000 sessions per month on Derek Bailey, and about 4,000 on Watch Me Code.
Okay, so what if we said that you get maybe 15,000 new people that we could probably... Does that sound right, Josh? Probably about 15,000?
I'd say closer to 10, maybe 5.
I think it's more like, usually it's more like 50-60% returning traffic, I think. So.
Okay. So what if, and I'm going to ask Josh on this one because this is a bit crazy, but what if Derek just put on his site for some period of time, it's just a pop-up, and it's just it just says, do you consider yourself a beginner, intermediate, or expert JavaScript developer? Right. Or maybe there's some other way to phrase that question, but basically to get to the question of the answer to the question, what kind of content would you like the most? Would you like beginner stuff, intermediate, or advanced? And
Right.
just to see, because if like 90% of the people click beginner, there you go. If they're clicking intermediate, then they're either lying or they're or we don't have much to go on, right? I don't know. I guess there's only one outcome that could really be move the needle. But I don't know. Is that maybe that would give you enough direction to be able to make the choice? Because if they're clicking intermediate and that's what they're coming for and that's what they want, then obviously it's a different problem that you're trying to solve. But if they're all clicking beginner and they don't feel like your stuff is for beginners, they feel like it's a little too advanced, like they need to just learn JavaScript first, then maybe that doesn't work. Or if you just have experts that are coming to your stuff, that's not going to work either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting about that is that then you can start to frame out part of the story for them. So after you've collected enough data over a few weeks or a month, then you turn around and you put up the next pop-up, which is, and you can either A/B test it or do another question. That's, my biggest struggle for this is this kind of thing, or, are you an advanced person and having trouble with this particular, aspect of your career, or this particular aspect of JavaScript, or whatever. And you can start seeing which one people then opt for as the next step. But I think it does get you more information. It's not a short-term fix, though, because you're going to have to, if you get 25,000 visits a month.
We're all waiting for you, Josh, to weigh in on this.
I think that is. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea, but I think it's a little. It's what am I trying to say? It's one of those where, if you're really trying to figure out what you want to do with this, you need to. It goes back to the high definition conversations thing we were talking about at MicroConf, where I think this is a little bit too fly-by-wire, remote control. Try to figure things out without. If you want to, I think that it would be really valuable to spend a week or 2 weeks of some serious soul-searching time, like journal. Go somewhere and journal, and go into Drip and sort by lead score, and all the people that are your customers that are your have the highest lead score, email them and ask them, what when you think of Derek Bailey, like, what am I the best in the world at? And do the same thing. Do the same thing with the people that haven't bought from you. Email 10 or 20 or 30 of them by hand individually. Tell them, hey, short email. I'm working on the direction for Watch Me Code, and I could really use your feedback and answer this one question for me. What am I the best in the world at? And have some of those conversations, but you've got to. This is your number one problem, because like 25,000 or to 30,000 page views a month, 5,000 people on your email list. There's enough there.
Yeah.
You don't need more people. Like, there's enough. You have a big enough audience to have a pretty large successful business with this, and it's just figuring out. You've got to solve that puzzle. I mean, more traffic is not the answer right now.
Right.
More
I know
cowbell,
that much.
but
Yeah. I got a fever. The only prescription, cowbell.
Yeah, I think you're right, Josh. Yeah, that makes sense. See, it was a stupid idea. You can just say it's a stupid idea, John.
I don't think it was a stupid idea. I mean, like, collecting.
Jeez, John, what the crap is that dumb idea about?
Collecting more data is always good. I mean, however you do it. So
Yeah.
But I ask, to your point, John, I ask that question on a fairly regular basis. I send out surveys to my mailing list, to my subscribers, to Slack. Twice, I guess once this year, I put up a generalized survey on the Watch Me Code site, and I got 50 people answering it, including a lot of people that were not subscribers. So I do collect that kind of information on a semi-regular basis and look through it on occasion, but I haven't I haven't been able to put it to use as much as I want to. And a part of it again is just focus. There are thousands of things that I could and should be working on, and getting that focus is difficult when I have to do everything, which is why I hired Mark in the first place, so that I could focus on the content creation and let him focus on the strategy and the analysis of that data and all that kind of stuff. And
this is your business.
I know.
Answering this question is your business. I mean, like, that is the most important thing that you could possibly do.
So do I stop producing anything until I figure that out? Do I just sit back and say I'm not going to do anything for the next 2 months, or do I keep doing what I'm doing, which will give me a little bit of confirmation bias because I'm trying to reach this audience at this specific level already?
Is there any reason to stop? I mean, I don't think you should put a cold stop on what you're doing, for a couple of reasons. One, momentum. Like, if you do this, if you put a cold stop, it'll be real easy to just play video games and not make screencasts. Like, the momentum will hurt bad. Like, I think that's probably the biggest reason I would say that. And then the second one would be just because there's no reason to stop. I mean, you are, like, it's not like you're failing. It's not like you are someone who is trying to launch a business. You've got this great idea and no one's buying it. You have customers. You have a business. It is working. You're just trying to scale it. You're just trying to get it to the next level. How can you scale this up? How can you take it to the next level?
I'm not even concerned about that right now. I'm concerned about not eating my savings account, about paying down my credit cards, I'm concerned with profitability again. I don't care about growth right now.
Well, okay, then Okay, here's a plan, like an action plan. One, stop paying for any kind of marketing, because you're multiplying something that isn't working, which is spending cash faster, right? You're failing faster. Stop doing that. Two, organize your finances. Get everything in QuickBooks, get that all organized, whatever you need to do to get that squared away.
Mm-hmm.
Three, figure out how to make cash fast so you can pull out of this nosedive situation and get into a good cash situation. There's no point in doing 3 until you do 2, because you can start the idea of 3, but if you make a bunch of cash and then you don't know how to spend it or where it went, it's not going to do you any good. So do that one, number 3. And I think Josh had a good idea for that. Like, if you did classes for $500, maybe you can do it as a dual purpose. Maybe those classes, somehow each class can answer a question about what you're the best at, or can lead you down the path of, you can kind of use the class as a sort of test for what people are interested in, or you can even ask them while you've got them there, right? Or you can ask them to fill out a survey afterwards. Like, you can probably dual purpose that, but that'll give you some quick cash so that you can get out of this nosedive, pay off all the credit cards, get to a financially solvent place where you're not in desperation mode. And then after after those steps are done, so step 4 is now actually come up with the message and the marketing plan, and what is your new thing going to be, right? And then go on from there. But I think if you do those things, I think that's the order that you're going to need to do things in order to get to a stable place, a safe place.
I have a suspicion too that if you do this, after 4 weeks, if it's a quality course with good communication, which is what people are really going to pay for, is access and good communication, you'll probably know the answers to some of these questions, because they're going to be the things that people are asking you about anyway.
Yep.
And you can use all of that as fodder for Watch Me Code, and then you can provide some of those videos to the course and say, Peter asked this question. I made this video for Watch Me Code. And then as more and more questions get answered in Watch Me Code, people can start to figure out, oh, he's going to answer all the questions that people ask in Watch Me Code. I may as well just go sign up for it. And that may wind up being a feeder into a more prolonged relationship with the subscription. And yeah, in the meantime, I mean, if you get 20 people to sign up at $500 a piece, that's $10,000, and that probably solves at least a good chunk of your problem.
Yeah, it solves about a third of my problem after I take taxes out.
Once you have it, you can do it again.
Yeah, do it until you're
with a whole lot less effort.
Yeah, exactly, and do it until you're financially solvent, and then your new rule needs to be like once you have the books and you can look at it and you've got cash on hand, that's what you can invest in marketing. But you can't invest credit. You have to invest cash on it. It doesn't mean you can't use the credit card, but once you actually have the books, you can say, look, with Simple Programmer, we look at it and we're like, okay, we've got this much cash on hand. Like we could invest this money if we wanted to, and we know that from a fiscal level, so we're not going to get into trouble. But once you get to that baseline, you got to get out of the debt first, get there, then you'll be able to make the decisions and do investments instead of the gambles that are going to cause you trouble. And I think you're going to figure out a lot of it just by doing the classes, especially if you think about how can I make the class and ask a question, answer a question.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it needs to be, and for the classes to work, you're going to need to come up with some kind. This is actually where I've been blocked on my thing, and what this coaching program that I'm in is helping me with is figuring out what the outcome is going to be that you can promise people. If that's what they're going to buy. They're not going to buy. Right now, what you're selling is information, and that's really not what people want.
It's true. People don't buy jogging shorts. They buy thin.
Yeah.
And Derek, with what you have, there is a business here. I feel like that's a big part of it is that you're at the same point I was at with my Sublime list where you don't believe anymore, right? Like you're not even sure it's possible.
Right.
And that's really frustrating, and that pretty much takes the wind out of your sails. You had some early success too. I think I had the same deal with Sublime where you had with Backbone, like you said earlier, you caught an updraft. And so you had some early success, and that was like you stumbled into a USP, and people were coming to you for that, and it wasn't hard to sell, right? It wasn't hard. You had training class, you were doing corporate training, like it was not hard. You can get there again. Like that's where you need to be. That you need to be looking to recreate that, and you can do it. It's totally doable.
Yeah. And better this time because you'll have a whole crap load more to sell that's reoccurring as opposed to the smaller price one shots.
Yeah.
Or the big price one shots.
So the big question becomes, what is the class? What is the thing that people would pay for?
That you have to answer.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
that's the thing I have to answer, but
you don't have to come up with it yourself. Can you this is where you can use your list. And I mean, like what's your most, you and Mark have been doing some survey work, right? I just did a survey to my list from this class that I took that I could send you. I could say it's a really easy survey. But I think doing that, like if you do a survey, get an idea of what types of questions people are struggling with. You'll probably get, with 5,000 people, you can probably get a couple. You can get There we go. Did we lose Derek?
That's a
We
big
lost
hiccup.
Derek. There we go.
There's a glitch in the
I thought it was me.
No, I
We all-
froze up right after Josh said with the list of 5,000 people you can get.
Yeah, you should be able to get 100, 150 responses to a survey like that, and that will give you a lot of food for thought. So you're not, because if you just sit there and try to think of it yourself, you're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What do you have already? Like, what are some of the survey stuff that you guys have done lately? It sounds like you're doing some work.
Yeah, some. We were not asking for specific subjects, though.
Okay.
We were asking more generalized, what is your subscription missing? What type of content should we be focusing on?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff too. And that one just went out to my subscribers only. That didn't go out to my general mailing list.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so you haven't hit your mailing list with one of these lately.
No, not since
perfect.
April.
Okay.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Let me tell you. I'm going to pull up the questions that I used because it was like
Email it to me because I'm not going to be able to remember it.
Right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, here it is. It's a form. Google. I just use Google Drive for it.
Right.
If you could have 15 minutes of my time to help with creating marketing emails for your email list, what would you ask me? And then the second question is basically, can I call you? Which was just mainly to help figure out how serious people were.
Mm-hmm.
I'll send you a link to this. So you'd want it to be fairly open-ended, but you want it to be clear that it's JavaScript, or whatever the subject area is. I'm sending this email over to you right now, and send that out. I actually promoted it for a whole week. I think after the first 2 days, I didn't get that many responses. So if you sent like 2 emails about it, that would probably be enough. And the emails can be pretty short, just like a couple lines and the link to the survey. So do that. Sort the results by length so that the longest ones are at the top, and then spend some quality time reading through them and looking for themes and figuring out what people are. Because the nice thing about the way that question's phrased too is what I had trouble with Sublime was everything is like all the questions were like, if you go to Stack Overflow, you'd see this. I am running Ubuntu 12.5 and I have VLC installed, and when I do copy and paste, VLC pops up. Like, how do I fix that? And I'm like, that's not really helpful. I can't really do an info product about that, but
you could.
I could.
I fixed it in one specific problem. Do you have this problem? Do you have this problem, sir? Look at this. Look how frustrating this is. I'm trying to use Sublime Text and VLC pops up. I've got the solution for you. I've got it right now. $2.99, $1.99, no, $5. $5. Just click that button, and you'll never have this problem again. Buy it now.
They'll be like, "Screw you! I'm a Linux user. Information should be free." So, but yeah, Derek. I mean, I think if you do that, you're gonna have plenty of directions that you could go with the class.
Okay.
So do it, and then send us the results.
Yep.
Okay.
I should have just let Josh talk. He was much smarter than I was.
No, Chuck, you had good stuff to say.
So John, Josh, Chuck, I guess all 3 of you. I guess John specifically, since you've gone through this, on the QuickBooks front, is it going to be worth spending money to get somebody to help me do that, or is that something I need to do myself?
Ooh.
It depends on how much. I mean, okay, so it's probably worth having someone. It's probably worth an investment there to spend some money to at the very least have them set it up initially and show you how to do it. It depends on how complicated it is. I mean, I think in your case it may be simple enough where you can probably just have someone set it up and then show you how to do it, and then you do it. Whereas in the with Simple Programmer, it's worth for us to pay $200 a month to have someone do it for us. And the reason why is because we've got like 20 different revenue streams. It's like all kinds of.
Yeah, I've got like 5.
Okay.
I have to disagree here on this one. Having been through, so John has way more financial smarts than I do. I mean, I used to balance my checkbook, and that's about that's about the extent of it. And John's been doing this real estate stuff. He's a whiz with spreadsheets and everything. I would say struggle through it yourself. What I did, I hired 3 different bookkeepers, and I ended up, they were all useless. And I ended up having to do it all myself anyway, because I didn't know how to hire someone. I didn't know how to evaluate whether they were any good. So I would suggest, like, sit down and at least look through all your transactions that you've had over the last year or something, and go, okay, what are all the buckets that I care about, and like, what information do I really need to have about my business, and what are what categories do I want stuff to go into? Because the bookkeeper is going to come to you and say, what categories do you want stuff to go into? I mean, for the most part, that's what they do. They are more like order takers, and they're not. I think Dan. It seems like our guy Dan now is more prescriptive.
But I remember I had a spreadsheet.
Yeah, exactly.
That had categories.
You had a spreadsheet. John had a spreadsheet that he'd put together every month that showed all the info, and Dan was like, "Okay, so we're just going to replicate this in QuickBooks," and John was like, "Let's do it."
Yep.
So yeah, you need to have like a pretty high, at least a pretty solid high level idea of how you want your expenses to be categorized, and then I would say just hook it up to your bank account, and it'll import all your transactions. And then I would go back, or halfway through the year, try to go back and do this year, get this year squared away. Basically, you'll import all your transactions into QuickBooks, and then go back and start categorizing all of them and processing them. A lot of times the bookkeepers will set up, they'll want to use a lot of the features of QuickBooks that I still don't understand. Like they want to have all the I's dotted and T's crossed. So like, when you get a check but it hasn't been deposited yet, like you go into QuickBooks and you add it to cash on hand or whatever, whatever the procedure is. And it's like, yeah, it would make sense if I had a business with 10 people and all these accounts receivable and stuff, and I don't. I just have me, and I know when the money's coming and everything. So I would struggle through it. It definitely sucked, but it took me, once I finally got in there and just did it, it was like a couple of days, and I was like at least comfortable enough to where I felt like I understood what was going on. And then I just go in once a week now and process my new transactions. They mostly auto categorize themselves once you do it. So you just go in like accept. And then you can literally at any time, I can just go in, run a report, and I can see how much I've spent on, like one thing I wanted to know was how much am I spending every month on subscription type stuff. So like recurring expenses versus optional one-time expenses. So if my income goes in the toilet, I can run a report and I say, okay, well, gosh, like $1,000 a month is like my minimum for my business, right? Like I'm subscribed to these newsletters. I am paying $100 a month for Drip, web hosting, all that. I can kind of, I can see that at a glance, and it's really, really nice. And I was able to set up spreadsheets to get automatically emailed to myself once a month that show me how much money I've made, how much money I've spent, and where. And it was painful to get there, but I think it's worth struggling through.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I spent like over $1,000. I spent probably $1,200 or more on bookkeeping, and had no freaking clue where any of my money was. And I ended up having to literally after I fired the last one, I have one now. All she does though is she basically does the checkbook balancing part of things. Like she takes care of like PayPal fees and reconciling and everything. I do all the. I still manage all the transactions myself because it's just easier. Because I'd have to explain all this stuff to her every month, and it's easier for me to just do it because I know what everything is.
We do have Dan. I mean, we could we could introduce him to Dan, and he could explain to Dan because Dan, I think, has enough technical knowledge and he's worked with us, so like there's some similarity, and he might be able to you could tell Dan, hey, look, could you set this up? And he's happy to do that, I'm pretty sure. And then, but explain it to me, and let's logically work through this, how we should best set this up, and then explain it to me how to maintain it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that might be.
Yeah, I just don't want to see you spend more money.
That's
the thing. But I don't want to get myself into a really stupid situation with QuickBooks where I think I have money that I don't have, or the other way around, and end up getting myself in even more trouble.
Well, the thing is though, with how simple our businesses are, your bank account is like really the thing that you look at. I mean, that's really the number that matters. Is how much money is actually in the bank. To me, I don't really refer to QuickBooks. QuickBooks is more just I don't know. It's like my mileage log, right? And like the gas needle. I don't rely on the mileage log. I rely on the needle telling me that my gas tank is on a quarter of a tank.
Right.
And that's my bank account. And then as far like QuickBooks is more like, okay, where was I a week ago?
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, it can't be any worse than it really can't be any worse than it is right now, right?
Well, if he paid $500, let's say,
yeah,
and Dan set up his system and explained it to him, and he had something that was working, it probably would be a good investment for the future, just because
you'd probably be farther. I'm sure you'd be farther ahead than I am now if you did that.
Mm-hmm.
That might be worth the investment. Again, I'm very cautious to have Derek spend extra money, but I feel like that could help a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
It probably would make sense to go through and do some of it, screw around with it for yourself first, and it's actually pretty resilient. Like you can like nuke the whole thing, and start over. Like it's not hard to do that. So
buy a Costco membership if you don't have one already, and I'm not even kidding.
There's no Costco here.
Still buy a Costco membership.
Well, John, you know what? I signed up for that. So there's a really nice discount. They're telling me it's only 6 months though. It might have changed since you did it, but
maybe.
If you have a Costco executive membership, there's a really good QuickBooks discount, but
let me see.
I just signed up
permanent. Oh, you just signed up for it? And
so it might have.
It was only 6 months. There's like a promotional period of this special rate. Maybe there's like some kind of like fine print. Intuit is not my favorite company as far as honesty goes.
Yeah.
Oh, save 40% for 6 months, and then there's a little 1. There's nowhere where the 1 is actually like on that page. You have to click another link. Oh, and then it expands. Interesting. At the current Costco executive member price until you cancel. So so you get the 6 months discount at the super discounted price, and then it goes to
what's the super discounted price?
Like half price.
Because I'm looking at the QuickBooks Online website right now, and they just flat out say get 30% off for 6 months right now, with no discount codes applied or anything.
Mm-hmm. And then what's their regular price?
$40 a month regular price, $28 a month for the discount.
I was paying $40 a month, 42.
Yeah.
So
just be careful that you don't wind up signing up for the payroll part of it, because that's another $30. And I got dinged for that for like 6 months, and I kept telling them to turn it off, and I finally just went to the bank and said, I never authorized these.
Yeah.
And then they made them go away. But yeah. But I will tell you that I went in, I set up QuickBooks Online, I imported all the transactions, and then my bookkeeper, I hired her, and she went in and straightened it all out. And then I just went back through and looked at what was, what the reports were and stuff, and made sure that it all lined up with what I expected. And she's billing me hourly, but she really doesn't cost me that much every month.
Mm-hmm.
But then I don't have to worry about it. I have to occasionally upload like American Express statements and stuff, but that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You can figure out the discount thing if it's worth it or not. Either way, it's not expensive for them. I think you only need the essential. You don't need to manage inventory. Do you need 1099s?
Yes.
Okay, then just do the QuickBook Online Plus. It's $32 a month. It'll be worth it. Yeah. And you can get the discount for 6 months or whatever. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing $28 a month for 6 months.
But yeah, just
$40 a month after that, which isn't bad. I mean, that's
I use mine for invoicing too, so I don't know if you might be using Harvest or something for that.
I am right now, but I canceled Harvest once I got this set up and working, and I do my invoicing.
Yeah.
Are you actually time tracking in Harvest or just literally just invoicing?
Just invoicing.
Yeah, this is easier. I like it better than Harvest.
Yeah.
And you can actually, they can pay you, I don't know if this would work for them, but they can pay you via ACH, so there's like a 50-cent transaction fee that's how John pays me. Instead of getting dinged for a few $100 or whatever it would be, that 3% transaction fee sucks on big checks.
Yeah, it does.
So if they're willing to do ACH, it's 50 cents, and so that could seriously save you, hundreds of dollars a year.
Yeah,
or
what
more.
you pay for it.
Yep.
Right now, I get a physical check from.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
From my client, and I take a picture of it with my phone, and it costs me nothing.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's fine.
I've got checks that when I do get checks, they get sent to North Carolina to my scanning service, and they scan them in, and then I take a picture of the check.
Yep. I did that once. The guy that I contract through, he pulled up his QuickBooks Online. I took a picture of his screen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's no potential for fraud here.
Nope.
Why are we still doing this system with paper checks? Why are we insane here? This is nuts.
The reason we are is because idiots and money-grubbing bankers around the world charge us to do it the easy way. It doesn't cost us anything to do the paper, but it costs us, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars to do it electronically. Screw that.
But anyway, just
middlemen.
Set it up and play with it and see if you can figure it out. That's the best way to learn anything. I think there's like a learning course where you play around, like some 10 steps to learn anything quickly, and you play around, and then you you go get the help. So
I'm not afraid of buying toys and smashing them open with hammers.
Yeah, because then if you do consult with Dan, and we can hook you up with his info and make the introduction, then you have questions to ask him that are important, logical questions. So then it won't be him just explaining it. Then you'll be like, oh, I understand. I was messing with this thing, and now I see how that works. And then you'll actually learn it. So
my biggest question getting started was like, what are the category, like how should I be categorizing this stuff? And I ended up just having to make it up myself because like the category, you always get these categories, and I don't know who comes up with these categories, but they're like, it's almost like somebody has a random noun generator. Have you ever had to like pick your occupation from a drop-down menu? It's like, what industry do you work in? And they're like these ultra specific. They're like these ultra specific. I'm a Navy SEAL, or like agriculture. It's like
all agriculture
it's
people
the government.
Are gay. They're just like I grow things in the.
John froze.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
And
so
John was right in the middle of that.
sorry.
There's a lot of people in Pennsylvania in agriculture that are like, hey, let's go make a farm.
So anyway, so that's how I felt about the
Right.
categories in QuickBooks. That it was just like they seemed really arbitrary to me, and I was like, what does the IRS care about? You know, like how does the IRS want to see this stuff, and then what's useful to me as a business owner? And I got zero help on that. Like,
Yeah, no, I have to do that anyways because at the end of the year for my accountant,
Mhm.
they want to know what my marketing expenses were, what my contractor
Yeah.
expenses were,
Yeah.
what my monthly services were, what hardware and software I purchased. So I know those categories already, and I'm just going to lump things into those very high-level groups because that's what my accountant wants to see.
Yeah, essentially what you do, like at least like what we did with Simple Programmers, we have those categories, and then I came up with the categories that I want to know about, like what's important to me. I want to know how much money I'm making on products.
Yeah.
Like for Simple Programmer, it's simple. It should be, right? But we said, okay, this is what we do. We do advertising. We make advertising income. We make product sales income. We make affiliate income, and we make pledges, or now the Patreon, the donations, and that's it. And those are income. And then we've got the same thing for expenses. And those aren't the official categories of income, but things fall into those bigger buckets. So when we get our report, we look at those things because that's what we care about. But at the lower level, it's still grouped into the buckets for tax accounting purposes. But I think that's the most, because then you're using QuickBooks, your accounting software in a way that's a utility to you that actually gives you some information about your business, because we can very quickly look at it and say, okay, how much money are we making, how much we're spending.
Yep. And if you want contact info for my bookkeeper, I can give that to you too.
Yeah, I'll do that later, but I think for this week, I'm going to fire Mark. Sorry, Mark. I don't think he listens to this podcast, but he's gone.
I fired somebody this week.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised who listens to this podcast.
It's true.
The word of mouth. There's like 6 active viewers now. It's all word of mouth. It's like you better listen to the podcast this week. You're going to be on it, dude.
Yep. And then I'll get a subscription to QuickBooks Online set up. The other thing that's really pissing me off right now is in 10 minutes here I have to go because I got to get on to another call to discuss all of the bureaucratic bullshit that the manager at my client is forcing us to go through. I am this close. I don't know if you can see that, but my fingers are like literally touching each other. I'm that close to quitting my client because of the way that the manager that we report through is treating us, the bureaucracy that he's pushing us through. And I was talking to my wife about this yesterday, and she's like, screw that guy, go find another job. You don't need to put up with that. And I agree with her. So there's a couple of things that I'm looking at in terms of continuing with this client, but with a different manager. There's a project that we're trying to get that I would love to do, and then there's a conversation that we're about to have, me and the other contractors that I work with. We're going to talk through some of this stuff right here.
Just don't burn any bridges.
I don't care if I do, honestly.
Contractor revolt.
I really
Chuck's
don't.
advice for the week is don't burn any bridges.
Blood will be spilled.
Yeah,
Boy, you're talking about my week. Anyway.
Yeah.
But this is the new Entreprogrammers. If Josh were still working for Trackabout, he would be like, fuck Larry, I'm just going to tell him I'm just talking about what I'm doing. I'm going to leave that shithole as soon as I get a chance.
I have loyalty to friends and coworkers, and I would not want to put the other contractors that I work with in a big bind. But at the same time, I'm not going to put up with it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I burn the bridge with the client, I don't fucking care. I don't want to burn the bridge with the contractors that I'm working with because I would like to continue supporting the products that I've built for them, but I won't do it under that current manager. So, yeah, there's that.
I would do anything for love.
But
I
that
would
won't
do anything for love.
Oh, I love you guys.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yay! Giant fucking dumpster fire of Derek's business.
Oh.
Hey, but at least you got a plan that you can execute now. And
I have 2 steps out of 12, right? This is supposed to be a 12-step program.
well, you only need 4 steps to make money, and the 3rd step is never defined. So, you know, do
That's
something.
true.
Yeah. So.
Firemark, get QuickBooks Online, ? Profit.
Yep.
That's my plan.
Oh.
So I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh, Josh, what about your webinar thing? Do you want to?
Yeah, I did a webinar this week.
Yeah, I
Ooh.
watched the first 20 minutes of you saying we're going to wait just a few more minutes, and then I turned it off.
It was not 20 minutes. I was literally 5 minutes and 7 seconds. I trimmed it. I have to trim it for the replay, so I know exactly how long it was. No, So okay. So what happened was, it ended up going pretty well. I think I sold 126 seats to it, all told, which is about 4 times more than I was thinking.
Yeah, I think you might have a marketing business now.
Yeah, it was like it ended up being. I was thinking 30 to 40 would be good, but I ended up with 126. And I think the revenue is like around 3,600 before I have to do affiliate payouts for a bunch of that, so that'll eat into it nicely. But so I didn't use any kind of webinar platform. I cobbled it together with Drip and Google Hangouts. Webinar was going to go live at, so I didn't want, like I hadn't shared the link to actually join the webinar prior to that point. So the email hits, people start trickling in, and then I start getting emails. Hey Josh, you're going to send out a link to join the webinar, and it's like 5 minutes till, and I'm like, oh crap, there's something going on here. This is not good. And I was getting hammered. I probably got, in that last 5 minutes, I probably got 10 to 15 emails from people who were trying to join and were like Googling in their Gmail inbox trying to figure out how to get on the stupid webinar, and they hadn't gotten the link from me.
No, why didn't they get the link? I missed that part.
Well, I haven't explained it yet. So
okay.
It's
a good hook.
I emailed. So afterwards. So anyway, I kept answering these emails, and then at about 5 after 3, I was like, okay, I just have to start this thing. I'm still getting emails from people, so I just closed Gmail and just went. And so I was afraid afterwards. The whole thing went pretty well. I had it all scripted out, and I think I was able to do a pretty good job of like working off a script without, I wasn't reading it, like I was presenting it. And one thing I realized that's key for me is I can't work off of a script. But if I, like with this, I was screen sharing, I had, slides and stuff. So I was able to, people couldn't see that I was staring at my notes the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was fine. Like I was able to just work through, that's kind of the ideal format for me, I think, actually, because I was able to put everything that I wanted to say in the right order and think it through ahead of time so that it flowed smoothly in my head. And when it was go time, like I just was able to crank through it and it worked. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna try to keep that in mind for future stuff like this and try to set the format up so that I'm not, like, I don't like the talking head thing. I end up coming across really wooden because I either have to memorize it to the point where I literally know everything that was in my outline, or I just have to wing it, and I'm not very good at that.
I did a video on this. Did you see that video I did on this?
No.
I did a video on that exact problem. Someone asked me how to record videos, and I was like, you choose one thing. You either totally wing it.
Yep.
And just talk about and just flow, or you totally script it out. You don't put a few bullets and try to hit them, because you just like, you can't, like, at least for me, I can't do that. I can.
No,
I think
100% agree.
Yeah.
When I first started Watch Me Code, I was 100% scripted, and I hated it.
Yeah.
And when the half the reason I wanted to stop Watch Me Code a couple years ago was because of that. And when I switched to the subscription model and started doing the shorter videos, I completely switched over to just winging it, and I am far superior at that. What I do is I think through and practice through the code, and I think through the bullet points that I want to cover.
Yep.
But I never write it down. I don't have a pad of notes sitting there. I don't have things sitting in front of me that I want to hit. I practice the thing once, and then I hit record and just wing it.
Yep.
Because I know where I'm trying to go, and I know where I am, so the path to get there is obvious to me, and I can just go.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys are weird. I just write the talk about this, talk about this, talk about this, and that's what I speak from.
You're a professional speaker. You've gone to Toastmasters.
Right.
Yeah. So for me to be comfortable and relaxed, I actually need to have everything flowing logically ahead of time, and because where I have trouble is when I hit a point and I don't know how to get to. I know where I want to go, but I don't know how to bridge that gap from where I am, or
You're not a bridge gapper.
I'm not a bridge gapper, and I'll work myself into a corner and I won't know how to get out gracefully. So anyway, so this format, I ended up going a little, like, right around 2 hours with it, and definitely there were a few rough edges. Somebody asked me if I was eating, and I was like, no. I did stop for a sip of Diet Coke at one point because I was parched. But
are you eating? What are you wearing? That's the question there. Hey, Joe wants to share what he's wearing.
Yeah.
Turn on your webcam, Joe.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta go. I gotta hit the restroom before that's next.
Good luck.
All right.
So
fun.
So what happened with the emails was I emailed Rob afterwards, and I was like, Rob, what happened here? And he's like, well, SendGrid is having system-wide issues, and that, like, emails have been delayed for all their customers for up to an hour, which is about what I was seeing. Was like people were getting the email like an hour late, and it was like it was this massive rolling SendGrid issue.
You had one job.
Yeah, I know.
Send the email. That's all you do. Your whole company is based on one thing: send the email. You're called SendGrid.
Right. Well, and the grid implies kind of the robust, failover, that type of thing. So
note to self: send out emails an hour and a half before the webinar.
Well, what I should have done, what I'm going to do in the future is actually pay for a webinar platform, so that because now that I know I can do these and I can do them and make them profitable, it makes sense to pay for it. And so that goes away. But in this situation, what I should have done is sent the link. I did send a 24-hour reminder, and there's really wasn't any reason I couldn't have put the link in there. I just thought, I don't want to send it out because it's just a web page. I didn't really want to just send it out early, because then literally it could get emailed around all over the place, and people could be coming that hadn't paid. So I guess I was just being a little bit paranoid there about that. But it ended up going pretty well. I should have done it better. Biggest thing I could have done better, I think, was doing some slides. I should have had slides for the part. I covered conceptual stuff, and then also actually looked at the copy that I'd written and showed our drip workflows and everything. And people seem to really like that. But I was afraid of bouncing back and forth between the screen sharing and the slides. And since I was using Google Hangouts, there was this awkward this awkward Google Hangouts window that I had to manage. So that's always fun. It likes to hide behind other windows on the Mac. So, yeah, definitely some rough edges, but overall I was pretty happy with it. And I'm going to so I've got this. So now I've got this 2 hour. I've got a product. Yay! So I've got a 2 hour webinar. I'm going to bundle it up with. I had done that call we did with Adrian John to talk about the Plinko stuff. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put the copy from the 5 Learning Mistakes course in there. I'm going to get like a couple of extra little bonuses. My freelancer show interview that we did that went really well. I have a transcript of that, so I'm going to include the interview and the transcript, and then I'm going to get a transcript made of this video and of the webinar, so they have that. And I think I'm also going to get like those sketch notes done, or some kind of mind map or something made, and include that. So, and for $50, that's not bad. That's some. I had a guy. Okay, so I had a guy ask for a refund on $29 product. So he emails me afterwards. He actually asked a question, like at the end, right? So during the Q&A, he asked a question. He's like, Josh, could I use this approach to sell to C-level executives in a B2B setting? And I was like, well, I think the biggest determinant there is whether those C-level people use email, right? Because like in a lot of cases, they have gatekeepers that screen all their email for them and their mail, and they're just hard to reach in general. So that's kind of the biggest question. And it's like some like chief marketing officers, I'm sure that would work quite well for, a CFO or a CEO, maybe not. So he emails me afterwards. He's like, I would like to request a refund because I don't think I can use your system. I was just like, I was just like, okay, whatever, dude. Like, I don't care. It's, I really don't care. I can't imagine, like, it's hard for me to imagine requesting a refund on a $29 webinar and like not thinking that I got, even if all he got out of it is me saying, well, do your customers use email? That is worth $29 if he hadn't thought about that, right? Which he clearly hadn't, because he bought the product.
Remember, people ask for refunds on 99-cent app store apps.
No, it was kind of silly. So, but yeah, I mean, he had some interesting questions. So I asked him what his niche was, and he's like he sells like he's in like the energy niche. Like he sells he gets companies to switch their energy provider in the markets where that's allowed. So it's kind of an interesting marketing problem. And I probably think that my approach is not really the best. But I'm like, what in the way that this was marketed made you think that he's like, I'm not selling info products. I'm like, I talk on the sales page about how I sold info products and how I'm using this to sell info products. It's like I don't know. I don't understand. It's more that I don't understand why he bought it versus the requesting of the refund. So, but yeah, that was actually just kind of amusing.
Nice.
So then I had a bunch of, I logged back into my email. I had told John like afterwards, I'm like, I'm afraid to go into my email now because I'm going to have all these, I'm going to have like all these angry people. And there were like 25 email threads in there from like people desperately trying to find the link. And amazingly, somehow most of them like knew someone else that was going. And so almost all of them ended up getting in eventually. But I emailed them all back and apologized and offered them all a refund, and none of them requested a refund. So it seems like that brush fire has been contained and put out.
Yeah.
Most people don't really ask for refunds on $29 things. Like in general, like even if you don't get the thing, most people are like.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the other thing is that it's not just the $29, but it's that they really wanted what Josh was offering, and so it's like look, I'm going to get more sales off of this, and I'll so whatever.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so I'm going to package it up. I'm going to sell it on my site for $49, and then I'm also going to. So I had this other guy who contacted me, and he he is also doing an email course about email courses, and apparently he'd had Brennan Dunn and somebody else do a couple of the lessons. So he asked me to write a lesson. He's putting my lesson first in line, which is kind of cool.
Oh, cool.
But then he wants to pitch at the end. He wants to package my webinar up with a service that he's going to be offering and sell it at the end of this. So, so like people are starting to, like I'm actually going to get a lot of mileage out of this. It's not,
Nice.
yeah, it's going to, and I'm also going to, I'm going to send it up. I'm going to package it up and send it over to Brian Harris because he's been interested in what I'm doing. And a lot of my best customers come from his 10K subs program.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't have anywhere to send those people, right? Like, so I think that like that's going to be my first little world that I conquer is getting integrated into his 10K subs. So it might just be like a bonus. Initially, I just do a bonus. I give him my package to give away as a bonus.
Yep.
So
Yep.
This webinar. So
With a very, very small royalty percentage. Just in case.
Yeah.
Something you can't say no
Yeah.
to. After he's agreed to include it into the package. Oh, by the
yeah,
way.
he does a lot of when he does his launches, he does a lot of bonuses. So he does this thing where he does like a week-long launch for his course, and then every couple of days he'll like announce a new surprise bonus.
Yep.
So I could be in that group of people.
And we'll get to see him in person next weekend.
Yep.
Too, so that'll be good.
SumoCon, right?
SumoCon, yes. That'll be fun.
And hopefully we'll have business cards. At least we'll have the crappy business cards. We've got. Here's yours, Josh. Sort of.
Sweet. Yeah.
The back is kind of screwed up because of that white line, but.
Oh, so is that in the design?
Yeah, but it's supposed to be like printers are supposed to not do. I don't know. So.
Oh, is it like a crop line, and they're not supposed to print it?
Yeah, it's like a crop line, exactly.
It's supposed to be a full bleed, and they didn't.
But
yeah.
It's a cool design. We just got to get it printed right. That's the problem now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I might have to go to a higher end printer than Moo. Like maybe we'll get these ones.
I don't know why. I don't know why you didn't expect the utmost in quality from it.
Well, Moo is a high end printer. It's
Are
expensive.
they?
It's not Vistaprint. It's like
all right.
up a level. But I guess maybe there's another. I mean, I don't know. Like I don't mind paying like $2 or $3 a card if they're really good, because I'm not just handing them out like candy. Like if we give someone a card, it's going to be worth more than $2 to $3.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
I'm still figuring out this whole webinar thing. I decided, because I was stealing your idea, Josh, and I decided to make the first webinar free, and I'm going to try and sell the rest of them from there.
Okay.
And so people are getting the 5 mistakes that are keeping you from finding a job webinar. I'm also going to throw it in as a bonus as part of my pitch when I put the email course together. And,
okay, cool.
And so what'll happen is you'll get all 5, and then it'll be like, hey, if you want to hear me explain, like in person in more depth, these 5 mistakes and how to overcome them, then go check out the webinar. And then I emailed you guys a link to the webinar page. But So I'm still figuring out how to do some of this stuff in Thrive, but
the page is looking good.
Yeah, the thing that I really want to do at this point is on the paid webinars. Now that I've kind of cobbled all this stuff together, I'm trying to figure out how to put MemberPress forms into Thrive Themes pop-ups so that people can sign up for the webinars when they click it and it pops up.
Oh, okay.
You can put custom
I think
HTML
you just
in
want
there.
like a custom HTML element.
Oh, is that how you do it?
Yeah.
It might even have an integration that you can use as an element. I'm not sure, but
I'll have to look into that. That's the thing that's been holding me up.
Check in the API
at the very least,
section.
You can put custom.
Yeah. Check in the API section of the Thrive dashboard. and see if MemberPress is listed. Like, just try to add it as a connection.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then yeah, you can just like go to your pop-up, hit edit, and then just drag an HTML. Like, there's a custom HTML element, and you just click that, stick it in there. That's what I use for shortcodes, like you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, they
So-
give me shortcodes for the membership sign-up forms.
Yeah, so it might get a little. You might have to fiddle with it for a while because it'll be awkward. They won't show the preview in Thrive, so you'll have to like probably preview it, and it'll be more messing around. But it should work. It should be doable.
Sounds good. Yeah, once I get that figured out, then I've pretty much got the entire process for building those landing pages together. And it's funny because I was chatting with Gerald, who's my guy in Philippines, and I was like, I need you to start telling me every day what you work on every day. And so I've been getting these messages back, and I'm like, oh, so you have more time? And he's like, yeah. So he's probably going to finish those off for me.
Oh, cool.
This afternoon or Monday. And so Labor Day I'll be fishing with my kids, and he'll be writing my landing pages. And I mean, I have to do a little bit of copywriting for it, like the bullet points and stuff, but that'll be real nice. And I'm actually interviewing one of my neighbor's sisters today as possibly another source of $10 an hour labor to get some of this done. Her resume, though, she says that she's done social media marketing and a couple of other things that I was kind of hoping I could find somebody to do, but wasn't a requirement for this job. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what her experience is there, especially since I essentially have to full on replace Mandy now because she's not working for me since Monday. So
right. How did that happen?
I asked her to wave late.
Is that a scab on your knee? Oh, sure. Let me just scrape that off for you.
Yeah.
It's bleeding again. Oh.
Yeah.
Get
with
that
my
bandage.
Yeah. Let me scrape it off with my machete. But yeah. Yeah, that was no fun. And then Tuesday, I think we talked about it a while back, the whole diversity discussion with Ruby Rogues. There was some insensitivity on the show, and granted, we walked right into a big blind spot with that. And so I got hit with that stick again. I mean, the person that brought it up had a point that if we'd had more black people on the call, then it probably would have gone differently. But the flip side of it is that you know what? If I'm not gonna bring somebody on saying we have to get another black person on the show. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring somebody on because they make the show more awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, it's
shit's gonna happen. People are gonna be people, right? And it's like, do you really want to censor people? And like, everybody loves closet racists. That's great. That's awesome. Let's all just be closet.
Yeah.
Because like at least like let people hang their own. Say what they want to say.
It's hard because I don't think that the people involved are wrong, but at the same time I don't think I'm wrong either, and so it's not just a cut and dried. Oh well, then I need to do this.
Well, see, but you're right.
I have to keep doing what I feel good about, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. So
that's why you're right. You're right because it's your thing. You own it.
Yeah.
Right. You're the like Josh said, the benevolent dictator. This is you. This is you. Like you want to get off the ship, fine, but like you've got to, whatever you say. Like opinions doesn't mean you don't take advice from people, but like ultimately, like this is your stuff.
Yeah. My main point though is that Monday the whole Mandy thing blew up and then was over with. Tuesday I had that go down. Wednesday I had one of my main sponsors contact me and say that their sponsorship message didn't wind up in JavaScript Jabber.
Oops.
So I reached out to Podcast Motor and I'm like, what's the deal, guys? And they reached back and said, we didn't publish that one, Mandy did. And so I went and checked, and sure enough, she screwed it up right before the end which is probably just a human error, right? But it's, after everything else, it's like, oh, okay, so Mandy kicked you in the teeth twice this week. Once she probably didn't mean to.
Yeah.
So yesterday I sat down and I was, oh my gosh, I was just done. And so I've been coming to this co-working space in Provo. If you're in Utah and you know Provo at all, it's right across the street from the commuter rail station, Front Runner Station. And anyway, so I just sat down and started working, and I've been working on the webinar landing page process, putting it in DocuWiki. So I set one of those up. It took me 10 minutes. And anyway, so I got the viewing page up for the webinar. And right now it just has a video in there that says the webinar will go here, right? Because I haven't done it yet. And so it's the watch page for afterward. And then I've got the landing page together. People can actually sign up. I need to do the automation in Drip so they get notified of the webinar. So when they sign up, they get an email, and then they're tagged, so they get the other emails like a couple days before and 24 hours before. And I was looking at doing like 1 hour before, but I think I'll do 2 hours before. Thanks, Josh.
I would do it 24 hours before, honestly, after what I went through.
Well, they're going to get the link right off.
Okay.
You can send out multiple ones. Just send it 24 hours, send it a couple hours, and send it the minute of.
Yeah. But what I'm hoping to do is get that email sent out about the middle of next week that tells people, hey, I'm putting on this webinar. If you've been having trouble finding a job, this is going to show you what you're doing wrong and show you what to do right. And then if I get those emails in there, then I can send them the page to the video. And then when I write the email course, I can do it as kind of a follow-up. Hey, do you want, do you want these emails? But, what I'm hoping is that when they go and they watch it, there's a button there that says get the videos and the book. And so I'm going to have a landing page for the book that it sends them to, and then they can buy the book and the videos, or the book and the videos and some, personal coaching with me.
Nice.
And, set all that up, and I think that's going to go over pretty well. The only issue I really have at this point with all of this is that I also need to be promoting Angular Remote Conf. And granted, that's a smaller segment of my list, but trying to do both is hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a good answer to that, but trying to do both is hard. I could hire somebody else to do it. I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at, but I'm going to have to show them how to do it anyway. So I'm going to wind up doing it one way or the other.
Is it just really all the organization?
Yeah, it's a time issue.
Well, once you get the process down, then it'll be easier, and then you can outsource that, have someone else do it.
Well, that's the thing that's so great about documenting it too, is it's like, okay, now I know how to get what I want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And somebody else can follow these instructions, and I'm sure they're not perfect, but they'll get 95% of what I want done. And they can, I'm like, look, if you have a question, ask me. If there's something here you see that I could do different that will work better, tell me. So. But that's all working out, and I'm pretty happy that I found a resource that I don't have to pay any more money for in Gerald, and just getting that stuff done.
Yeah.
But if things hadn't gone okay yesterday, I would have showed up today, and I would have been talking to you guys about how do I get out of this weird funk. But it's just been nuts. And I'm just trying to figure out now. Of course, Josh is buying a webinar platform. I'm trying to decide if I should just wait until September 14th, and then after that decide if I want to invest in another one or not.
I think if you're going to, I think like the way that I did it, it was really, I'm going to do one or two of these and see how they go, and see if this is something that I even like doing, or do I hate it? Well, I never want to do another one for the rest of my life. And now that I've done 2 of them, and I'm pretty sure that I'm comfortable doing it, it's at that point it's definitely worth the thing.
Right.
The only thing that has kept me from pulling the trigger at this point is just not knowing. Like it seems like everybody I talk to has one that they use, and they all kind of like feel like it's not really that great.
Right.
GoToWebinar seems like they're kind of what everybody that can afford. Like if you can afford GoToWebinar, you probably use it. Because it's pretty expensive. Like I think it's like might be like $1,000 a month or something crazy like that.
Yeah, the issue that I had with GoToWebinar, because I used it for some webinars a few years ago, was that it wasn't supported on Linux, and I had about a quarter of the people that were trying to attend the webinar, because it was a technical one. Was I can't get on it.
Yeah, and programmers also kind of complain about having to install.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, because I hate that software. They're, especially on Mac, their update model is hysterical. Like you literally end up with, if you don't delete them, you'll end up with like a dozen copies of the app. And if you if you open Finder and you type GoToWebinar, it'll be like like all these app icons. It's like, what? Really? Okay.
Yeah, one thing that I'm thinking about doing is just sticking with Crowdcast and either talking them into giving me a button I can hit to say this one's a Google Hangout, or because their software works, but and it allows you to bring people on the screen and stuff, and so there are a lot of nice integrations to it, but the video quality isn't good enough, and so I'm thinking about just otherwise I just have to email them and say, look, I set up Crowdcast events for all of these different.
They have to do it manually on the back end?
Yeah.
Ugh, that's terrible.
But yeah, the webinar thing has kind of exploded for me, though. I'm going to be doing 2 in September, 3 or 4 in October, 2 in November, and 2 or 3 in December at this point. But that rounds out my video course for the Get a Coder Job book.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sell it as a benefit that you get to come live and ask your questions.
Yeah. After what I've been through with setting mine up, I think it was fine. I think it's an okay way to test pilot something, but with where you are, since you're kind of committed now to this, it probably would be worth spending the money.
Yeah, I'm just trying to decide if I want to just stay in Crowdcast or pick up something else.
Yeah. So Webinar Jam, the one that I'm looking at is Webinar Jam, and that's $500 or $400 a year, but then they've got a 30-day free trial, I think. So you could just test that out, and it wouldn't it wouldn't cost you anything. I looked at the one that we have is Webinar Ninja, I think, John.
Yeah.
And I was not overwhelmed with it.
It's not great, but I basically got it for free. It was like $30 Is it for a year or is it for lifetime? I don't know.
I think it's lifetime access.
It was crazy. So.
Yeah, I think Webinar Jam was the one that I was looking at.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I gotta get jumping off here to do that. The monthly hangout.
Yeah, we won't be here next week then. I don't think.
Yeah, unless we
dial in from SumoCon.
Yeah, most likely we won't be. I'm trying to think what the timing will be, because flight-wise, I guess we will nail it down.
I think I will be probably like going to the hotel or.
Oh yeah, I'm showing I'll be in the air. So. Haven't done one in the air, but yeah. So I might be able to land and join you guys from the airport. We'll see. I don't know, but probably not.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll figure it out when we get closer. If we're gonna do
Yeah.
later. We're gonna be able to join or whatever. So.
Yeah, well, and I can chat with Derek and see where things are.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Should we
All right.
do thoughts real quick?
Sure. My thought is basically what John said last week, because I listened to that episode right before things started to get better, and I don't think that was why things got better, but at the same time, it was just, look, things suck.
Yeah.
It's hard. You made a decision to do this when you were not depressed, so stick with it, and, things will work out, and that's basically what happened.
Yep.
And, honestly, it sucked. I was depressed. I didn't want to get out of bed. My wife has been having major back problems this week, and so it was telling how willing she was to get up and do things, even though it caused her a lot of pain, just because I just didn't have the emotional or whatever energy to get up and just deal with things. And I think I scared her half to death, because after Monday I was just done, and then Tuesday happened and I was even worse. So yeah, sometimes it really sucks. On the Freelancer show when we started it, Jeff always said that, well, I'm just going to quit and be a pig farmer. And so earlier this week, it was pig farmer week, and it was, I'm going to have a big ass pig farm with big ass pigs
Yeah.
that drop a ton of shit because I am up to my nipples in it. That's how bad it was. And
Yep.
you know what? It's a normal thing. None of it was pleasant, especially when you have major disagreements with people you either like, respect, or both, which was the case in both cases early this week. But you know what? Stick through it. It'll all come out okay. And,
Just keep sucking air.
Yeah. Even if you're up to your nipples in pig shit.
Yeah. No, it's true. It happened. The same thing,
Yep.
for me. Like I said, I went through that, and then this week, or I think sometime last week, the clouds lifted, just like one of those Nexium commercials, and
Yeah, it was funny. I don't even know what happened, but
yeah,
somewhere in the middle of the day on Thursday, I wasn't even done with the landing page, but I got kind of close, and then something just clicked, and just like that, I was like, I feel way better about things. And it wasn't that I had anything less to do, or that I was any less overwhelmed, or that the week was any less sucky at that point. I just felt better. And maybe it was just, okay, the mourning period over these, crappy things happening is done, and I can get on to whatever I'm doing.
One thing I always try to remind myself too is that hard work cures a lot of ill. Sometimes if you just go and work on something really hard when you don't feel like it, then you feel so much better afterwards. You're like, oh, why didn't I just do that thing that I was procrastinating? Because now I actually feel good. So.
Oh man, I'll tell you, this landing page and webinar stuff, I thought, oh yeah, well, I've done a bunch of stuff like the webinars, and the landing pages can't be that hard. Oh my gosh, it has been one of the hardest things that I've had to figure out how to do.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's see. Mine is, I guess I'll just go from what I, my experience this week and what I talked about at the beginning of the episode, which is essentially this. It's just explore a lot of crazy stuff. Don't just assume people are stupid because they don't believe what you believe or think what you believe. I'm not trying to give the generic advice of have an open mind, but I'm saying there's value in a lot of more stuff than go and explore, go and read, go and check stuff out. Hear other opinions, right? Don't be so, again, strong beliefs loosely held, but more than that, go and explore this stuff that's out there, and most of the time you're going to find that whatever, you know, that there are a bunch of people are believing in or banding behind, there's some reason for it. You won't be able to see it as an outsider. You're going to have to, you know, actually go and explore. You know, since I started doing that, the quality of my life has significantly improved. Right? You know, I was a very close-minded, very analytical person, and you know, it doesn't mean that I believe every kind of crockpot bullshit that you throw my way, but it makes a huge difference in your life, you know. And so I find myself, you know, reading a lot of interesting, and you never know. Like, you can't know stuff until you've actually, you think you know it, you think you've got it figured out. I mean, like I said, when I was so hell bent on evolution, I went into you know, started looking into some of the creation science stuff. I was like, oh, I had honestly changed my viewpoint. Like, I honestly was like, and it didn't mean that I totally subscribed to it, but okay, yeah, I couldn't have seen that from. I thought I knew what they were about. I didn't know what they're about. Same thing. I mean, recently, just looking at Dianetics, Scientology, same thing again. Like, wow, okay, you know, it doesn't mean I'm going to convert and be a Scientologist, but it means that okay, it's not as crazy. I just got a book I just got the book The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump, obviously. And I hadn't actually read that book, and I'm reading the book. I've got a totally different perspective of the guy and stuff, you know. So, like, you know, these are things that I think very few people are willing to do, because it's scary. It's scary to open yourself to possibly, like, you know, see a viewpoint that you're against, or you think you're against, but it's important, and it makes a huge difference in your life. So
yeah,
do it.
Well, and I found that in talking to people with other points of view, a lot of times the talking points that are presented to you, you wind up talking past each other. So, for example, you know, Republicans and Democrats, you know, they present like these two opposing views, and when you start talking about it, it's, well, we both see the same problem. And we both, you know, once you start talking, it's like, well, I can see how you would come to that conclusion about the solution. And it turns out that, you know, maybe the solution is a little bit of both. Or, you know, the evolution versus creationism. You know, I'm not shy about telling people that I'm, you know, a devout, practicing religious person. And, you know, so I subscribe to creationism. But I find nothing in evolution that disproves creationism any more than I find anything in creationism that disproves evolution. I mean, I don't know how God created that stuff. I half expect the creationists and the evolutionists, when they get to meet their maker, they look at him and say, so who's right? And he's going to say, well, I created it. And he's going to reach into his tool bag and pull out the evolution wrench and say, and this is what I did it with. You know, it just, you know, it doesn't have to be one or the other, but because we're set up to have these arguments over these made-up opposition, you know, we find that, you know, we start yelling at each other over things that probably don't matter anyway.
Yeah. And most of the time, like, I mean, just like humans, how many times are you 100% right? I'm not. I make a lot of mistakes. So a lot of the viewpoints, a lot of the parties and groups that we subscribe to are not 100% right either. Mm-hmm. But we sometimes argue like they are, and that's a dangerous place to be, because when you dehumanize other people because they don't believe something that's obviously correct or obviously, like, you know what it is? It's sneering. Sneering is toxic. Sneering is toxic. Anytime you're sneering, you are coming from a position of you are so high and so above in knowledge than someone else that their opinion and their even humanity is worth nothing. And that's what a sneer is. So sneering is a very harmful condition.
Yep.
So my thought for the week is that sometimes you just need to sneer at people. No, I'm kidding. So one thing I've been thinking about a lot this week is somebody posed a question to me, like, what is your dream? Like, what is the size? What is the dent you want to make in the world? Because when you have something that you're that passionate about, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the debates we get sucked into, a lot of the stuff that really doesn't matter anything, it doesn't, you kind of, it's not even a temptation, like you don't feel like, oh, it's not a struggle to stay off of Facebook and, not get into fights with people on Twitter because you're so focused on this goal, and it's, for me, I'm trying to figure that out for myself now. I don't have the answer yet, but I want something, and I have decided it's not a monetary goal. Like I'm working on kind of like figuring out my, my vision, like what I really want to help people with. And so I'm sure I'll talk more about that later, but.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, maybe next week, maybe not next week. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yep.
At least Chuck and Derek, if you can get Derek to join, then if not, maybe Josh and I will join if we can. So.
All right. See you guys next week.
All right. Take care.
Bye.